Okay, so here I am in Google Drawings, and I'm going to show you how to balance a chemical reaction equation using Google Drawings as a tool. At the top, you'll notice I have a chemical reaction equation written. This is what chemical reaction equations always look like. You have molecules or crystals or atoms being added together with plus signs to separate the individual pieces. An arrow that shows you where the actual chemical reaction is happening. So it sort of separates the reactants from the products in the reaction. And then all of the products follow the same rules. They're separated with plus signs. You'll notice that this particular equation has one thing that you probably don't recognize yet, and that is a dot that connects Ni3 with NH3. That dot just means that Ni3 is connected to NH3. If you wanted to, you could have just written it out as one big chemical formula. However, the authors, the chemists that wrote this chemical formula out are trying to emphasize it's important that Ni3 and NH3 are connected to each other and they're individual molecules all of their own. Now, one thing we need to do before we solve this equation is we need to put in spots to put our coefficients, because to balance an equation, what you need to do is add coefficients that show how many of each molecule you have in the reaction. So I'm just going to put in those boxes that show where the chemical coefficients are going to go. And then let's get started making this chemical reaction happen. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a vertical line using the line tool to separate the reactants and the coefficients. That way I have one thing on one side of the screen and one thing on the other, and I don't have to worry about accidentally mixing one thing to the other side. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make my reactant molecules. Here I see I have I2, which is iodine, and NH3, which is ammonia. So I'm going to use the circle tool, the shapes. I'm going to choose a circle, and I'm going to make an iodine atom first. When I click and drag to make the circle, I'm actually holding down the shift key because that makes it a perfect circle instead of an oval. And then I'm going to change the color in this because I know that iodine is a purple atom, like it's represented usually using purple colors. And then I'm going to right click and say edit text so I can add text to the inside. I'm going to type a capital I, the symbol for iodine. I'm going to change the color of that text to white so you can see it. I'm going to make it bold so it stands out a little bit more. And then it only looks good if it's centered, so I'm going to use this alignment tool to center it within the atom. Now we have an iodine atom. That was a lot of steps. All right, so I'm just going to recap. I created a circle using the insert shape, and I chose the circle as a shape. I then changed the color of the circle. You don't have to use the official colors of the atoms because maybe you don't know what they are. However, you should make different atoms different colors. And then I right-clicked, added text, I added the letter I, and voila, now I have an iodine atom. I'm going to copy this using Control-C and then paste it using Control-V. That gives me two iodine atoms, and we connect together to make I2. Now I have one of the substances that's a reactant in this equation. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do is make NH3 ammonia. I'm actually going to do that by copying one of my iodine atoms, Control-C and Control-V. I'm going to then just double click inside, change that I to a capital N for nitrogen, and then I'm going to click on the outside so I have the circle selected, go up here to background colors and change it to dark blue because nitrogen is a dark blue colored molecule, because nitrogen atoms are usually colored dark blue. I need to make 3 hydrogens, so copy and paste again. Change the letter to H. Hydrogen is a white atom usually, so I'm going to change the text color back to black so we'll be able to see it. And then the background color to just off-white. Usually I use a gray for hydrogen. And then I'm going to hold down shift and drag the corner and make it really small because hydrogen atoms are the smallest atoms on the periodic table. I'm going to copy and paste it a few times so that I have 3 Okay, now I've got my reactants made. I've got an I2 and an NH3. Remember, though, the next thing we need to do is make the same atoms on the right as are on the left. So I'm going to take both of these and copy and paste them and just move them over to the product side. And then, like happens in any chemical reaction, the bonds get broken. So I'm going to separate the atoms all from one another by just clicking and dragging them apart. Okay, so my chemical reaction caused the bonds to separate, and now they're going to reform to make the substances that are pictured and the reactants in the product side of the equation. So I'm going to combine a hydrogen with an iodine to make iodic acid or hydrogen iodide. That's what this one is. I'm going to, let's see, over here I need Ni3. So I'm going to take my nitrogen and connect it to the iodine, but I don't have enough iodines to make Ni3 on this side. Plus, I need to make an NH3, and I don't have enough leftover atoms to make NH3 either. So that means I need to go back to the reactant side and copy and paste some more things. I know I'm going to need another iodine molecule, so I'm just going to make a copy of this, copy, paste. I need to leave one copy on my reactant side so I remember that I made it, and then I'm going to copy and paste it over the other side. So I'm kind of just adding it to both sides of the equation here. And then I'm going to move an iodine up here and an iodine up here, and now I have nitrogen triiodide Ni3, which is what I was looking for. Just move that over a little bit. But I still don't have everything that I need, because I still need NH3 to be connected to that. Well, actually, that's pretty easy. I'm going to make a copy of this NH3 molecule on this side. I'm going to paste it. Remember, I have to leave one copy on the reactant side so I remember that I made it, and then add it to both sides of the equation. I'm just going to connect it right up with the nitrogen triiodide that I have. Maybe I'll line things up a little bit more nicely here. But there we go. Now I have Ni3.NH3, but I still don't have everything that I need because I've got these two free hydrogens over here that aren't bonded to anything, but there's no free hydrogens in the chemical equation at the top. So I still need to make a few more things in order to make only the substances that are pictured in the chemical equation. Well, I realize I'm short a few iodine atoms, so I'm just going to copy one more iodine molecule from the reactant side, copy and paste. I'm going to leave one copy on the reactant side and bring another copy over to the products side, and it's going to break apart and recombine to make hydrogen iodide. So there's one hydrogen iodide, and there's my last one. And now I have a balanced chemical equation. At the top, I need to put into my chemical equation what the coefficients are. So let's see, what's the coefficient of I2? As I edit this, I'm going to put in, let's see, I have 3 I2 molecules on the left. So I'm going to put in a 3 as my coefficient for I2. My coefficient for NH3, well, on the left side as I count them up, I have 2 NH3 molecules, so I'm going to enter a 2 there. How many Ni3.NH3s do I have? Well, actually, I only have one of those complexes, one Ni3NH3. So I don't have to put a coefficient at all. I'm just going to leave that one blank because that's how you show when you only have one of something. And then iodic acid or hydrogen iodide. As I look, I have 3 of these, so I'm going to put a 3 for my coefficient for hydrogen iodide. And now I have a balanced chemical equation.